Hi, good day to everyone at the Philippine Alliance of Patient Organizations Conference. To Mr. Chris Munoz, Ma'am Gurley Lorenzo, and the leadership of PAPO, Professor Cristina Torres, distinguished speakers, patient leaders, advocates, researchers, and all participants, thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this important gathering. Although I could not be there with you physically today, I'm truly honored to send this message in support of your conference on the vital role of patients in clinical trials. I especially wish to recognize the work of PAPO in bringing together patient communities and creating spaces where the voices of patients are not only heard but are truly valued. And this is extremely important work. As we all know, for many years, clinical trials were often viewed mainly as activities designed by researchers, by doctors, by regulators, or pharmaceutical companies. Patients were frequently seen only as participants or subjects of research, but today, we increasingly recognize something very important, and that is that patients are not merely subjects of research, that patients are partners in research, and perhaps even more importantly, that patients are the very reason why clinical trials or why clinical research exists in the first place. And this is not simply a statement of appreciation, it's a statement about the purpose and the accountability of science. Clinical research draws its more legitimacy, its right to exist, its right to ask people to take on risk and sacrifice their time from one source. Yeah? The hope that it will reduce human suffering and improve human lives. Remove the patient from the center of that purpose, and research loses its moral foundation entirely. However, sometimes in discussions about protocols and technologies and regulations, publications, and scientific outcomes, we risk forgetting something fundamental. That is, that clinical research ultimately exists because of patients and for patients. When patients are treated as passive objects of knowledge rather than as holders of knowledge, we commit epistemic injustice. That is, the failure to recognize patients as legitimate knowers of their own experiences, of their own bodies, and of their own needs. Patients know things about living with illness that no dataset can fully capture. They know what it feels like to weigh a side effect against a benefit. They know what a quality of life measure truly means at 3 in the morning. That knowledge is irreplaceable. And when research ignores it, the science itself becomes so much poorer. The goal of research, therefore, is not simply the production of scientific knowledge. Rather, the goal of research is to respond to the questions that patients need answered. About survival, about daily function, about dignity, about what kind of life is possible after diagnosis. This is why patient engagement is not merely a useful addition to research. It is a reminder of who research is ultimately accountable to. Patient engagement also strengthens trust. If we recall, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many communities around the world, including, of course, the Philippines, experienced some confusion, fear, mistrust, unequal access to healthcare, and research benefits. These experiences reminded us that science cannot function in isolation from society. Trust is not simply a practical resource that makes recruitment easier. Rather, trust is a sign that research has fulfilled its ethical obligations. Without the trust, the most scientifically excellent trial, if such exists, fails at its most fundamental purpose. At the same time, meaningful patient engagement requires humility from researchers and institutions. For researchers, genuine engagement means entering the research relationship prepared to learn and not only to explain. It means recognizing that the patient's insight about what a disease feels like from the inside is not anecdotal. It is expert knowledge grounded in lived experience that no training program can ever replicate. Researchers do not only give patients a seat at the table as an act of generosity. They need patients at the table in order to do good science. To all patient leaders present today, I want to close with a direct message to you. Ask to be included in protocol design, not just as reviewers, but as co designers. Ask what the research findings will mean for your community and how they will be returned to you. Ask that your experiential knowledge be treated with same seriousness as clinical data. And ask about what happens after the trial. Ask whether the medicines and treatments tested in your community will actually be available and affordable to your community once the trial is over. You have the right to ask if this research is done here, with us, for us, will we actually be able to access what it produces? These are not unreasonable demands. They are the demands of ethical science. Your voices matter, your experiences matter, your participation matters. Tandaan, sa bawat pasyente na lumahok sa pananaliksik, sa bawat pamilya na nag-ambag ng kanilang karanasan, ng kanilang pag-asa at ng kanilang tiwala, ang inyong karanasan, ang inyong boses at ang inyong dignidad ay dapat na laging nasa gitna ng pananaliksik. Kayo ang puso ng pananaliksik. Huwag kayong titigil sa pagtatanong, sa pakikilahok, at sa pag-iit na ang inyong boses ay parating pinakikinggan. Kayo ang dahilan ng pananaliksik at ng totoong pag-usat ng agham, sapagkat ang agham ay hindi lamang para sa sarili nito. Ito ay para sa lipunan at dapat na ipinanganak mula sa lipunan. I wish you all a very successful and meaningful conference. Maraming salamat po and mabuhay kayong lahat.